Hello and warm welcome to our special program, Current Affairs. The Supreme Court has given the verdict that states can countermand UGC's exam guidelines to protect human lives amid the COVID-19 pandemic. The Disaster Management Act confers the power to states to override University Grants Commission's guidelines regarding the examination. In today's Current Affairs program, we will discuss questions like what is the issue, what does the Supreme Court say, what is the Disaster Management Act 2005. Apart from these, we will also know how does Disaster Management Act empower the governments, power of states under the Disaster Management Act, and at the end of this program, we will talk about relevance of Disaster Management Act during this pandemic. So let us begin with the first question. What is the issue? On 6th of July, taking into account recommendations of the R.C. Kuhar Expert Committee, UGC has issued guidelines regarding the examination. Following this, several petitions were filed in the court against the directions to organize examination as per the UGC guidelines. The petitioners also argued that the revised guidelines violate Article 14 on two counts. First, it fixes a date to complete the examination for the whole country, irrespective of the situation in different parts. Secondly, it discriminates between final and first or second year students. Moving further, we will know the decision of Supreme Court on the same. Supreme Court said universities and other institutions of higher education will have to hold the final year exams. They cannot promote students based on internal assessments or other criteria. In future, if any state found it impractical to hold the examination within the set deadline of September 30 and wanted to postpone them, it could approach the UGC. UGC would consider the request and make a decision at the earliest the court directed. According to the Supreme Court, UGC's guidelines did not discriminate against final year students by compelling them to appear in the examination, whereas their juniors were promoted based on their internal assessment. Final year exams is a chance for a student to show his best possible caliber. It also paves his future career both in academics and job. Now moving further, we will know about what is the Disaster Management Act 2005. The Act came into effect in India in January 2006. The object and purpose of the Disaster Management Act is to deal with disaster together with preparation of mitigation strategies, capacity building, and more. It makes the provision for the effective management of disasters and for matters connected therewith or incidental thereto. It seeks to set up a National Disaster Management Authority with the Prime Minister as its chairperson. The Act confers the power upon the central government to set up a National Executive Committee to aid the national authority. All state governments are mandated to establish a State Disaster Management Authority under this Act. So how does Disaster Management Act empower the governments? So, the Act confers the power upon the NDMA's chairperson to take decisions to deal with pandemic, together with deciding on relief for victims and special measures for the people in need. Under the Act, the State Chief Minister may also take measures to deal with the pandemic. By and large, the powers of the PM and CMs are the same, except in case of Delhi, where the LG has these powers. So the question arises here, what are the powers of state under the Disaster Management Act? During the disaster, the priority of all authorities under the Disaster Management Act 2005 is to contain the disaster as soon as possible and to save human life. For that reason, under the DM Act, states can revoke the revised UGC guidelines. However, this does not mean that states can promote students only on the basis of the internal assessment without conducting examination. Lastly, we will talk about the relevance of Disaster Management Act during this pandemic. Under this act, the states and district authorities can take action based on their own rules. However, rules should be framed on the basis of broad guidelines issued by the Home Ministry. The legal basis of the Disaster Management Act can be traced to the entry 23 of the concurrent list of the Constitution, that is, Social Security and Social Insurance. Entry 29 of this list, that is, Prevention of the Extension from one state to another of infectious or contagious diseases or pests affecting men, animals, or plants, can also be a basis for the enactment of this law.